Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well today. I'm going to try something new here. Just wanted to share with you something that God's kind of been putting on my heart. I feel like I need to put it out there, so I'm just going to kind of hop up in the morning and do my reading and share kind of what I get out of it with you. If you like it, if it benefits you, comment. Throw in the comments, like it, whatever, and that way I'll kind of know if I need to keep doing this or if it's something that needs to just be for me. Today I'm starting Romans 1. Romans was a letter that Paul wrote to the church at Rome from, they think he was actually in Corinth when he wrote it. And so chapter 1 is just kind of the intro to the letter and what he's talking about and what he's doing. So I'm not going to read it for you. I know everybody's time is valuable, so you can kind of read it whenever you get a chance, and I'll just kind of go through it and pick out some of the stuff. It's not made to be a full Bible study. I'm not going through verse by verse and footnote by footnote. I'm just kind of pulling out some of the things that mean something to me. And like I said, if it benefits you, great. If not, then that's all right too. So in verse 1, just one thing that jumped out to me is immediately Paul identifies himself as a servant of Christ. It's not, Paul, whatever his profession was. It's not Paul anything else. It's Paul, a servant of Christ. And then another thing that jumped out was verse 4. It says, and declared, and the paper Bible I've got here is a King James Version. I usually read like an ESV on the app, but I can't do both, so... and declared to be the Son of God with power according to the Spirit of holiness by the resurrection of the dead. So in the ESV it talks about how his declaration was because of his resurrection. It wasn't because of biblical, because they didn't have the Bible at that point. It wasn't because of anything else. It was only because he was able to rise from the dead that he could create salvation and that he could declare that. So I think a lot of people, and Andy Stanley's doing a series right now about the nones, people that don't really choose an affiliation with religion because they're not convinced one way or the other. They're not agnostic. They're not atheists. They're not Christian because they've kind of fallen out of the faith, but they don't really know where else to go either. So if you want to go check that out for sure. Some good information there. But he talks about how our salvation and what we believe is not based on the Bible. It's not based on anything else except for the fact that Christ came and died and rose, and that we don't need to get caught up and lost in some of the other stuff. In verse 5, one thing that jumped out was that grace and apostleship lead to obedience. So a lot of people think you've got to get the obedience thing down first before Christ will accept you, and that's not it. You get grace first. And then you come into the church, and hopefully you can find a church that accepts you as you are, and you get apostleship, and then that leads to obedience. In verse 8 through 13, it kind of breaks down what Christian friendship looks like. At least it kind of did for me, because he's talking, he's writing a letter to his friends at Rome, and so he talks about kind of what that friendship looks like. Obviously in verse 8, he's first of all thankful for them, thankful that they support him, thankful that they're looking out for him, and probably sending some monetary support, but also just encouraging him and lifting him up. Verse 9, it talks about how he prays for them daily. I've got friends that I pray for daily. I hope you do too. I hope you've got friends that are praying for you daily. Verse 10 and 11 talks about how he longs to see them and spend time together. And that distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? So how we long to spend time together, whether it's at church or different functions or just to get together and hang out and build each other up as Christ followers. And then in 12, how they comfort each other and encourage each other. Again, build each other up. In verse 16, it talks about how he's not ashamed of the gospel. How, and at this point, that was a dangerous thing. We kind of have it easy now and here in America, where we can we can claim the gospel and we can claim Christianity with minimal backlash. There's obviously a negative connotation building around it, but we're not worried about being murdered or martyred or abused or anything. So, but it also talks about in that verse how he's not ashamed because of the power of God through salvation. So it's not he's not ashamed because he knows the power that's contained in that. And I hope and pray that that's my testimony and your testimony, is that we're not ashamed because we know the power behind what we're saying and what we're claiming and what we're doing. And in verse 17 is kind of the last thing that really jumped out to me that I wanted to share with you. I've actually got a note in this old Bible that says faith is a way of life. So 17 in the King James is, "For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith." So one thing that really jumped out for me today was that it's from faith to faith. So you start with a little bit of faith, and then you're kind of given more faith. And it talks about elsewhere the faith of a mustard seed, where you just bring this little tiny bit, and then God grows that in you. It's not that it stays that little tiny bit of faith, but that it grows in you and becomes something bigger, becomes more life-changing. So I guess kind of to wrap up here, we talked about coming as you are. Don't worry about the obedience thing first. Come, have faith, and join a local church or a local body or a group of Christians somewhere that's going to build you up and going to mentor you and bring you up in the faith, and then the obedience will follow. But start with just whatever faith you've got. Don't worry about waiting until you can get the obedience thing down. Don't wait until you have some great amount of faith. But anyway, hope this was encouraging to you. We'll go to chapter 2 tomorrow, and I will see you then. Thanks.